Greetings once again. This is Dr. Bill Bailey, and this is VirtZine. VirtZine is the online magazine of virtualization and cloud computing. Glad you could join us for this edition of VirtZine, which, by the way, is VirtZine number 40. Now, in case you don't know, we come out kind of semi-occasionally. We don't have a regular schedule. We come out basically when we have enough content to present to you. So we're going to go back in the annals here of our posts on the VirtZine blog, which, by the way, is at virtzine.com, as it says there on the screen. And VirtZine, oh, and by the way, also, we are proud members of the Tech Podcast Network. techpodcast.com. If it's tech, it's right here on the VirtZine Netcast. Don't want to forget to mention that. Anyway, first item on the blog this time is VMware Horizon View 5.3 update. They've had an update to the VMware Horizon View 5, it's 5.3, and this has more options with the HTML5 client. Now, the HTML5 client, I love that client because essentially it is no client. There's no client there, so to speak. In other words, it's all built into the web browser side, and it's HTML5, so you don't have to have anything installed locally, which I like that. Anyway, the new version, it was very limited initially. The new version is not quite as limited so much as it was in the earlier version, so this is kind of neat. Here's what the VMware end-user computing blog has to say about the release. When we first released the HTML5 access in March this year, the key use case we were aiming at is to enable what's called transient access. This basically means being able to access your Horizon View desktop from a device that you don't own to quickly do some work. So like you're an internet coffee shop of some kind, and you sit down to a kiosk and you hit the website, and you're able to go in and hit your HTML5 site, you know, and then bring up in the browser your Horizon View access, okay? So that's what they were targeting it for. All right. So if you're on a vacation and you get access to Horizon View desktop from your brother's computer, all you need to do is fire up a web browser and point it at your company's Horizon View server, as they say here. What we didn't realize when we first released this first version was how successful it was going to be and the different ways customers would find to use it. We got feedback that people weren't just using it to quickly log in and do a little work and log off. They liked that there were no components to install, so you didn't need admin privileges. And it worked on devices that didn't have a native client, you know, like iPads and Android tablets and all those kinds of things. Anything that has a web browser that can use HTML5, you're good, okay? So we set out in this release to really up the level of performance, quality, and features, and we think we've hit the nail on the head. This is, of course, VMware speaking here. The new HTML access release is much more efficient, both on the wire and with regards to how it impacts overall system performance. It uses a fraction of the CPU that it did in the original version, meaning you can run more virtual desktops on the same server. On the network, it uses up to 50% less bandwidth than the initial release. That's a pretty significant improvement. The cool thing is that while we reduced the impact on system resources, we actually made the HTML access itself perform better. If you look at frame rate as a measure of performance, in some cases the newest version performs twice as well as the original release. What does that mean to your end users? Well, better video playback performance for starters, as well as an overall snappier feel when working in the virtual desktop. Better performance with less overhead is a good start, but we also heard from customers that there were a few features missing. So here's what they have now added in. Copy and paste from the virtual desktop to the underlying endpoint and vice versa. Support for high pixel count displays like MacBooks with Retina displays or the Chromebook Pixel. Wait, did I say Chromebook? He says. More on that later. he's, you know, tempting you there. Audio playback is now available through the HTML5 client. That wasn't available before. And leveraging HTML access with, yes, Chromebooks. With this release, we do officially support Chromebooks. All you need to do is point the Chrome browser at your View connection server with HTML access enabled, and you're off and running. Now, this is cool stuff. You know, I've already put in my request to Santa for a Chromebook. And if I get one, I'll demo this for you. That on your Chromebook, you can access your Horizon View session directly through your Chromebook. Now, that's pretty cool. And actually, that's quite necessary in my case because as an individual server engineer that supports the View environment, I got to have access. And if all I got is my Chromebook, I got to have it. So, pretty cool stuff. With HTML access and Horizon View 5.3, changed it there. We've added support for audio playback and copy-paste. These two features alone vastly increase the viable use case for HTML access. Audio playback will route any audio source in the virtual desktop to the Chromebook. Copy and paste works between the hosted virtual desktop and native Chromebook environment, meaning a user could copy text from an email into the virtual desktop and place it into a Google Docs document running on the Chromebook. How cool is that? There are two questions that come up now from Chromebook users with the VMware Horizon View. How do I access files not in my desktop, and how do I print to a local printer? Google provides two great options that can be installed in your Horizon View virtual machine that makes this easier: Google Drive and Google Cloud Print. Now, you'd have to install that on the Horizon View session, okay, and then access it through your HTML5 clientless client. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Once you do that, you can print to local printers through the Cloud Print Driver for Windows, Google Cloud Print Driver for Windows. Once installed on your virtual machine, you can use it to print to any printer you can connect to through your Google Cloud Print. We're excited that Chromebook users can now take advantage of the HTML access to their Horizon View desktops. That's pretty cool stuff. Now, with regard to talking about possibly going Chromebook, I've got another one for you. Virtualized applications, okay? There are certain things that won't run on a Chromebook. A Chromebook is essentially a stripped down notebook computer that runs a version of Linux, which is Chrome OS, which essentially is it's the Chrome browser, okay? So obviously you're not going to run Microsoft Office or even LibreOffice natively in that environment, all right? But what if you could virtualize those applications, any of those applications that you might want to run? You can do it now through a service called rollApp, ROLLAPP, rollapp.com, okay? So for instance, they have LibreOffice, as an example, published through rollApp that they put in the Google Play Store. So if you go to Google Play, if you're using a Chromebook, and you type in rollApp, you will find LibreOffice, the Writer, which is the Word document equivalent. You will find LibreOffice spreadsheets, and you will find LibreOffice Slides, which is the Excel and PowerPoint, respectively, versions, and they're roll-apped as virtual applications. Now, rollApp is more than just providing those for you. They also provide the technology where you, as an organization, for instance, could virtualize your own applications. Let's say you have a homegrown Visual Basic app that you run on your Windows PCs that you absolutely have to have for your users out there in the field, and maybe they're using a Chromebook. Well, okay, rollApp it as a virtual app, publish it through rollApp, and then they can connect and use it through the virtualized application. And to show the power of it, they also have another published app in the Google Play Store that's called the rollApp File Opener for Firefox and Google Chrome. And basically what it does is they've tried to kind of decide what extensions they want to support out there, and they build that into their file opener so that it will, any virtual environment, virtual application, launch the application and display different types of files depending on their extension. It's pretty powerful stuff. So you may want to look into rollApp as something that might help you virtualize applications in your particular corporate environment and provide them through cloud computing like Google Chrome users, okay? Sorry to say users of Google Chrome. Can't say it both ways at the same time. Just doesn't work. Okay. And finally here we have an article on the VMware Fling. If you've heard of VMware Flings, they're basically what VMware calls their little skunkworks projects. Have you ever had a skunkworks project at work? You know, where you decide you're going to try something and see if it works and see how it works in your environment and whether or not it's going to be useful? A lot of things get started as skunkworks projects and turn into real products. Well, this is a VMware Fling. VMware engineers put this together. It installs VMware Tools in a virtual environment in nested ESXi VMs. Okay? So here's how that would work. In a VMware environment, they're experimenting with nesting one VMware ESXi hypervisor inside another product like Workstation, which is pretty wild to think about initially. Fusion or vSphere may also be possible, and you do that, obviously you would want to do that in a production environment, okay? Let me say that up front. But if you're experimenting, you want to be able to update your VMware tools on your nested environment's guest, okay? And that's what this Fling allows you to do. And speaking of which, there's a new technology that I'm going to be looking into here very shortly that is going to be released with Red Hat version 7, which is an open source project called Docker, D-O-C-K-E-R, which promises to change the way we think about virtualization. I want to look into this personally, okay? And what that is if you imagine right now you go to a vendor and download an appliance, which you then incorporate into your VMware environment, so you didn't have to build the virtual server to install their software. It's already pre-installed and pre-configured. You're familiar with that, right? Okay? That's downloading an appliance. But what if you could download an appliance that also already had the hypervisor built in? So in other words, you're building an application on a server, and then you're virtualizing that server on a hypervisor, but then you're providing the whole thing as a standalone file. Whoa! So now we've gone from virtualizing the application on the server to virtualizing the server on the hypervisor. That's what Docker is all about. I'm going to have to look into that before I talk about it any further, but it sounds really interesting. Who knows what that means for the future? So we're going to be checking into that. But I tell you what, it's getting interesting out there. You know, we're virtualizing servers, and then we're virtualizing networks, and then we're virtualizing storage, and now we're going to virtualize the virtualization. Okay. That ought to expand your brain a little bit this week. Join us next time. Remember, until then, to keep your head in the cloud.